Dogs run fast.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Dynasty Dogs podcast, which is my dog's favorite podcast, brought to you by the Fantasy Football Universe. With me, as always, back in the doghouse, is the man who watches his TV at astronomical volumes. That is going to be my good friend, Rich McAteer. How are you, Rich?
Do you want me to unmute it? The Phillies just won 4-2.
There you go. There you go. Guys, be happy. We will not see Rich taking pictures of his TV screen. Cody Rhodes is not on tonight. We are recording on a Wednesday for one. He is behind him. He might take a picture of what's behind him. How are you, Rich?
I'm fantastic. I feel great on this fine Wednesday evening. My children are asleep, so I'm awake.
That's the most important part, especially when we're trying to do this episode, right? But, Rich, we have a very special guest with us this evening. This man has not been on the show for quite some time. I'm sure that'll be brought up because I had some blunders in that episode. The host of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, the man who will never steal you wrong and will keep you on the right track for Dynasty Fantasy Football. That is going to be the A-Train, Andy Blake. How are you, Andy?
Good. What's up, guys? I really appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to be in the doghouse with you guys and talk some ball here. It's been way, way too long.
No doubt.
Yeah, for sure. The last time we had you on, or it was just a me and you episode, Andy, we talked about Rome Odunze, Javon Baker, and Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah,
I wonder where you ranked them at.
Yeah, I was not a big Brian Thomas guy. Andy tried to talk me off the edge. I wouldn't listen to him. Unfortunately, I probably should have. So,
And you
Andy,
fell off that cliff, didn't you?
I'll let you have the floor to gloat if you'd like to here.
Well, I mean, let's just say this. I liked Brian Thomas Jr. a lot, probably way more in consensus, but even in my biggest dreams, I didn't think he would have the rookie season that he had. So, I mean, hey, man, a lot of these receivers, they're really, producing at a young age and coming out and showing out. So, I mean, it's good to see that. And, hopefully he takes another step forward, which, wow, can we say? Like, can he take another step forward? I still think he can. Hopefully a healthy T-Law.
Yeah, because we saw him produce with Mac Jones instead of T-Law, which is actually the most hilarious point of all that. That was a very classy way of you not brutally beating me down for my Brian Thomas hatred on this episode. So I appreciate that because Rich would have never let me get away with it.
Nope.
So tonight we have a very fun episode. We're going to go over That Bites, which is our news and notes around the NFL. We have a few things coming out because OTAs, actual football stuff, is starting to happen. We're still a ways away, but a little bit of football is better than none. And then we are going to be predicting future cornerstone pieces or top 8 at their positions. We're going to talk about quarterbacks. We're going to talk about running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, one per person. And we think these guys are going to break into the top 8, become a kind of cornerstone around for your dynasty rosters to build on. Very excited to talk about that. But let's first get into
Michael, you forgot a big part of that. All at the age of 25 and under. These guys are 25 and under.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We kind of fell into that trap a few times trying to play this episode out. I was like, do I want to keep the 25 and under? Do I want to expand it a little further? I think I changed the rules for this episode at least 6-7 times in the past week and a half.
Snip, snap.
This is
the wise words of Michael Scott.
This is the problem with possibly having ADHD is that I have all these thoughts running through my brain and I have to get them out. So,
possibly, huh?
Dude, when I did a lot of the content work before, it's you just always I'm always thinking content and I'm like, how can I make it a little more spicier? How can I push the limits a little bit more? So I love that. I love getting a little bit spicy here and really trying to not just give layup answers here, really help all these listeners, all these dynasty fantasy gamers, really try to, go for the win.
degenerates, as we call them here.
That's
Let's
right.
let's get into our news and notes. Here is our favorite part of the day, Rich's graphic, that bite segment. Let's get into the first bit of news we have here. Christian Kirk says Stroud will take us as far as Stroud will take this team as far as we want to go. Obviously, we saw a little bit of a step back for Stroud last year, coming off his rookie campaign, his rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year campaign. We'll start with this for you, Andy. Do you see Stroud kind of getting back to where he was his rookie year? Do you think he goes somewhere in the middle, or do you think last year was the Stroud we're going to see from here on out?
I could maybe see somewhat in the middle. I think the big problem here is the line. Like, he just can't stay upright. I mean, you have Joe Mixon really made an impact too. I mean, they really got onto the run game here, which can help. But whenever Nico's banged up and Tank Dell like obliterates his leg, he's probably done. I think this really shows that, like, hey, we had good pieces. I don't want to say had, because Nico's not a had, unless you get on to Rich's. So if you're listening, go check that out. But the thing is, I think they realize that these receivers aren't healthy, and when they're not healthy, they don't have anybody that can kind of like help Stroud kind of just get it going. So I thought they did a really good job in the draft, getting both them Iowa State guys. I mean, that's really big for them. And just try to bolster up this line the best they can to give him a little bit more time. I mean, Stroud does have to get it out fast, but when you got a pure X and Nico and you have nobody else because Tank's out or can't get off the line, which at times he does have problems with that. I mean, he's an excellent route runner, but I mean, I think this is really going to try to help him. But got to remember, Christian Kirk's had his own injury scares, and we'll see what he can do too.
Well, I'm kind of glad, by the way, that they picked up Christian Kirk. Or did they trade for him, or did they pick him up? I can't remember.
Did they trade it? I think they traded for him. They traded a 7th or something,
Yeah.
6th or 7th, because he was cut, and then they found a trade partner.
Oh, that's right.
You're right.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
You're right. I kind of like that move by them, and like you mentioned, Andy, he has had his injury history in the past, but I think a perfect compliment to him, if he ends up getting hurt, if hopefully we never want that to happen, but is Jalen Noel, the guy they drafted in the 3rd round of this, is a guy who could play the slot, who could play the outside, kind of a prototypical slot, but a guy who can also stretch the field as well on the outside. Rich, where do you stand on Stroud?
So Stroud, usually for me, I think year 3 for a guy is kind of like where he's going to level out. First year, they're going to have no tape on the guy. He's going to take off. He's going to look great. Second year, they got tape on the guy. He's still coming into his own. Now he's kind of his 3rd year. I think it's going to be the average of both. I don't think he's going to be as high as he was rookie year. I don't think he's going to be as low sophomore year. I think he's going to be slightly ahead of last year and kind of like level out. Andy, you did say staying upright. Nothing like trading your perennial Pro Bowler in Laramie Tunsil. I think he was sacked like something like 60 sometimes, if not high 50s. They did go out and grab all those wide receivers, trading for Kirk, drafting the 2 Iowa State guys. But again, that's great and all. They just brought in Nick Chubb as well, but getting rid of your all-pro tackle makes no sense to me. Especially when you have the sack issues. Yeah, no, I mean, maybe they just got like reminded of him smoking weed with the mask on. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to change the culture. I don't. None of it makes sense to me. But I think that's going to help Jaden Daniels in Washington, and it's definitely going to be C.J. Stroud's loss. That's for sure.
Yeah, Stroud is kind of the cautionary tale of ranking these rookie quarterbacks a little too highly right off the bat or right after their first year. That's kind of I hate to say this, kind of the vibe I get from like a Bo Nix, right? Because Bo Nix had a year that I don't think any of us kind of foresaw coming, but I'm starting to see him creep up into a lot of people's top 10s, and I don't know if I'm ready to put him there yet. I think he's a very good quarterback. I think he's probably closer to like number 12 in our dynasty ranks than he is 10. I know that's not like a steep drop off, but it just feels safer to put him there because I feel like we just saw his ceiling. And that kind of goes with what we're talking about with Stroud, is that I don't think we see that rookie season again, but something in the middle feels about right, to be honest. Like a guy who could finish, in that QB 9, QB 10 to 11 range, I think is in this cards for Stroud in his future, especially with the weapons they brought in, other than the the offensive line issues. Next bit of news, I put this one in here specifically for you, Andy. Maybe you could speak to this a bit better as the Steelers fan in this conversation. Jaylen Warren says he has no doubt he could shoulder a larger workload now that Najee Harris is gone, now that they brought in Caleb Johnson, a third-round rookie pick. What do you think of Jaylen Warren? Do you think he's the RB1 in Pittsburgh? We kind of talked about this a few weeks ago. Do you think this is a split workload kind of situation, at least to start?
So I feel it's probably going to be a split, especially at first. I think whenever we see week 1 and the Steelers are coming out in the field, this offense, we're going to see Jaylen Warren take the field. I mean, I think that as long as he's healthy, of course, but like I think that's how it goes with a lot of these guys. Now, Caleb Johnson, watching him, he's an extremely hard runner. I don't really get. I've heard people comp him to Lev Bell. I don't think he's near as good as a pass catcher. I think we could really see Jaylen Warren actually do pretty well, just in the pass catching game, because I think it's going to be kind of. I get worried about with Caleb Johnson. We're going to see like 11 rushes, 70 yards, no touchdown. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're going to
like the no man's land of yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and then whenever we're seeing Jaylen Warren get 5 rushes for 25 yards, but then he's on top, he's getting 4 catches for 30 yards. And it's like, okay, and then does he get in the end zone? So like I think that's how I'm kind of like playing this. So Jaylen Warren actually might be a sneaky little ad just because people are really worried about Caleb.
What do you think? Like a late second gets that done?
For Jaylen?
Yeah. Mid-second.
I don't even know
maybe.
if you have to pay that.
Not even a late second?
You guys think you'd have to pay that? I think there's a lot of people because we're seeing Caleb Johnson, kind of getting compared to RJ Harvey. Like, who would you rather have? And it's, to me, it's not really close.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, I'd pay a late second, but I don't know if you have to. You might even be able to take one of these veteran guys and move on from them because you're worried. Like James Conner, for instance, like he's 30 years old. They have Trey Benson. Like he's always hurt. So it's like, would you move James Conner for Jaylen Warren?
No, I think if I'm in a win now, I'm holding James Conner in hopes that he can give me one more year to put me over the top.
And that's the thing. I like he definitely could if he's healthy. I just get worried about 30-year-old running backs that like have an extensive injury history, and then especially they have a guy they put 3rd-round capital nipping at his heels.
They Heat Trade Cut has Jaylen Warren as a late 26 second equal value. So
yeah, I think that's totally fair. I just think there's a lot of people that I don't even know if you have to pay that.
Maybe get a third.
It might be like a perfect combination of people being high on Caleb Johnson and low on Jaylen Warren that you could get a deal done with a later pick.
Yeah,
for sure. I definitely think I agree with you, Andy. He is probably a sneaky, cheap buy, kind of in that realm of like if you want to throw darts at, him. Trey Benson's another one. Like these younger backs. Obviously, we mentioned James Conner, but he's more of the trying to help you win right this second, obviously. The Trey Bensons, the Jaylen Warrens, the Marshawn Lloyds, like all in that same ilk of younger backs that you could still get fairly cheap that could have some work this year or in the future. What do you think of Warren, Rich?
No, yeah, I think I'm kind of like right there with Andy and in terms of being a little bit higher on Warren. I liked him last year. I think he should have kind of had the job last year with Harris there as well. I got to kind of see what Caleb Johnson can give me before I say that Warren is not the guy. So I think definitely, at least for the start, it's going to be Warren, especially if he has the pass catching ability. Now with that gunslinger back there, that is Aaron Rodgers. So
he hates Aaron Rodgers, Andy. That was the nicest thing he's ever said about him.
You know what, dude? It's like it's just no offense to you, but like something about the Steelers, man. I think you know what it is. I can tell you what I can't stand. It's that the logo's on one side of the helmet and not the other. It drives me nuts. I'm just like watching, like, why don't you put it on both goddamn sides? And then Aaron Rodgers, my favorite player of all time.
So what I don't understand about this whole Aaron Rodgers thing is they trade George Pickens because he's too much of a drama, or however they worded it.
Which is insane.
Yeah,
And
and
let's not forget DK is very similar to.
yeah.
Well, I don't think he's as bad as Pickens. I think his Pickens is such a head case.
I saw.
I think you guys kind of dodged a bullet, honestly.
I saw a video of DK swinging a helmet at somebody last year in training camp. That dude's insane, also.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of like Steelers drama type. I mean, Antonio Brown, he's been in the news again recently.
Well, he's wanted for murder.
That's
insane.
Yeah.
or attempted murder. I'm sorry. That's insane.
You upgraded that charge real quick, didn't you? One more. I got two more things real quick notes. Mike Evans says Emeka Egbuka is built like a running back, but catches like Chris Godwin. The hype around Emeka Egbuka right now is starting to feel great. The vibes are great, as the kids say right now, that, you know, he could be in line for a role because nobody is sure that Chris Godwin, I haven't heard really much of anything when it comes to Chris Godwin's health. So maybe Emeka Egbuka is in for a larger role than we imagined off the bat. And he's the kind of guy that, you know, I had him as my wide receiver 2 ahead of Ted McMillan pre-draft, because I believe he is a very safe floor type of wide receiver. You know, your JSNs, your Zay Flowers, your, you know, all in that ilk of like a lesser version of Amon-Ra St. Brown, where they're PPR targets. And I think Emeka Egbuka falls right into that category. So hearing the news out of camp for him has been very pleasant. We'll start with you here, Rich. What do you think of Emeka year one? Do you think you see anything?
Well, firstly, that's kind of crazy. You have him ahead of Tet just because the guys you mentioned in Tampa. You know, you have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, you have me, you, and Andy out there in Carolina. Of course, we have our beloved Xavier Legette, but he is a clear-cut number one in Carolina. I don't think he stands really much of a challenge with anyone there. In terms
you don't
of
love
Egbuka,
Hunter Renfrow or Adam Thielen?
Hunter Renfrow was legitimately selling tires last season. I know he had some kind of health issue. I guess that's what I read, that he was taking time off. But to get back to Egbuka, there's a lot of mouths to feed down there. And in terms of the news coming out of camp, it's his teammate, right? Mike Evans is saying that. It's not a guy who's, you know, more of a beat writer who's, you know, objectively watching. It's a guy who's not going to be like, man, my teammate's a real piece of shit. I don't think he's good at all. So I don't know if you're going to get what I'm saying is I don't think you're going to get exactly an honest answer out of someone like a Mike Evans, you know, Chris Godwin. And in terms of Chris Godwin's health, I think we kind of did hear something about his health in terms of he was offered $30 million by New England, something like that. You know what I mean? So that kind of speaks to how healthy he was. He took less money to come back to Tampa. So my thing for Egbuka, I think he's going to kind of step up with one of those guys, either going down with an injury as they've had before, or, you know, sailing off into the sunset, which Mike Evans is inevitably going to do. So year one, I'm not expecting anything crazy from him. But 2, 3, 4, as the years go on and these guys fade out, he's going to kind of rise up where these guys, you know, aren't there to take the ball away from him anymore.
You thinking anything year one, Andy, or you think more along the lines of Rich?
I'm kind of like with Rich there. Like, I think this could be JSN, Roma Dunze. Like, we're going to take a year here and just kind of, unless an injury happens, to kind of just take off. I mean, we know Mike Evans is getting a little bit older. But on the counter side of that, we did see Jalen McMillan produce some whenever he was given an opportunity. Now, I know Chris Godwin went down, and that kind of really helped propel him, but Baker does sling the ball. So, I mean, I wouldn't really count on it, but if there was a team that he was going to succeed on year one and actually put up some numbers, I mean, what numbers are we talking about? Like, I like to know what his over-under is. Is it like, you know, 700
or 700? Yeah,
yeah.
600-700 probably.
like, and I think that's very doable. But I mean, I don't think we could see like a Brian Thomas, a Lad McConkey, like a crazy year out of him.
I could
Right.
see, like you said, the JSN Rome Doomsday, like that 700. What I think Rome hit 754. I was looking at this earlier. JSN hit like 654, 650,
Yeah.
something like that. If he gets over that 500-yard mark, I think we'll all be pretty happy. But I also think he could be a high reception guy, even with low yard volume. I think that's definitely a possibility. Last one here. Brees Hall says he has something to prove after a disappointing 2024 season.
No shit. The sky
What do you
is
think?
blue.
Andy, are you in or out for Brees Hall in 2024 and beyond?
I am in on Brees Hall. I'm gonna trust the film. I gotta trust the film. It sucks. I know, guys. I mean, it's disappointing, but I think he's a very, very good back. And if it doesn't happen with the Jets, he'll go somewhere and succeed. I mean, running backs are always moving, and I just like to bet on the talent.
Yeah, for sure. Same here. Rich, what do you think?
You know what? I'm kind of almost out on him. I feel almost like I feel about Kyle Pitts about him. It's like every year
Oh,
we're expecting a big year from him, but every year we don't get the big year. Every single season it's Brees Hall is going to be good. Every season is like he was, especially in redraft, he's one of the high running backs, and it's like, the fuck did I take this guy for? Every single year. So maybe, but I mean, I'm not holding my breath on it.
To be honest, I think Brees is in for a very nice season this year. Probably, I think an RB1 finish, not the RB1, but an RB1 finish is in the cards for him. In this article that I was reading with the headline I just mentioned, Aaron Glenn reached out to him amidst those trade rumors that they had during the draft and said to him, "You are our running back." And that speaks volumes to me. That makes me think that, that they are going to use him. And I think he's far beyond the better running back than Isaiah Davis and Braylon Allen, to be honest with you. I really think this is Brees' backfield to lose, and I don't see him losing it. 18th in carries last year, barely eclipsed 200 rushing attempts, but still averaged 4.2 yards a carry. They need to feed that man the fucking rock.
Yeah.
Mike, in my opinion, real quick, he was running back 18 last year behind David Montgomery and Aaron Jones and Alvin Kamara. So, like, that's not speaking volumes to a guy who's been like, oh, he's supposed to be this top.
But it's
people
a new
had him top 5
too. We're talking about without Aaron Rodgers too, and I do put a lot of what happened last year with the Jets with Aaron Rodgers as well.
I think what I like to look at with this, they bring in Justin Fields, they have Garrett Wilson. Who else do they have? They got to throw it to Garrett Wilson. They got to run the ball. I mean, that's
for sure.
I think.
Let's get in. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, you froze.
No, I was going to say, I think Mason Taylor is going to play a factor as well, and Justin Fields scrambling all over the goddamn place. So,
yeah, Rich's big buys this week or this year have been Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson. He wants the combo package of both of them. That has been his big one this offseason. But let's get into the meat and potatoes or the Thanksgiving dinner of this conversation. That is going to be predicting the future, getting our crystal balls out here and maybe putting our balls on the table with a few hot takes if we have one. We're going to be predicting future cornerstone pieces, guys that are outside of consensus top 8 rankings in their positions and possibly could make their way into that within maybe the next year, 2 years, or down the line. It remains to be seen. We'll obviously talk about that. Let's start with the dreaded position to kind of predict, and that is going to be the tight end position. Andy, as the guest, we're going to start with you here first. Who do you got?
All right. Well, we just talked about the Jets, and it kind of got taken right out there, and it's Mason Taylor for me.
Oh, good one. I like it.
So we look at Mason Taylor here. He's taken in the second round, pick 41 overall, only 20 years old. So we know tight ends usually take 2 to 3 years. To me, with Mason Taylor, I thought the film was good, but not great. Nothing really stood out, but everything was just good. Like, I felt like he was still just a very solid prospect. So, and I feel like sometimes we overthink that, right? Like, another one we brought up, Kyle Pitts. Like, we look at the film, we're like, oh man, I mean, it was excellent. But sometimes I feel like some of these young players, they just need an opportunity for things to click. When we look at this, it's definitely going to be Garrett Wilson. Rich, like you said, it's going to be Justin Fields running around. I think a heavy dose of Brees Hall, and I'm sure Braylon Allen's going to play a lot, but that's going to open up play action, and I think that's really good for Mason Taylor. So could I see him having like a top 5 year, or, as we said, top 8? Top 8 possibly if the touchdowns are there, but I could see like the Tucker Kraft year, right? Like where Tucker Kraft kind of came out of nowhere and was like, oh, damn, what he finished? Like tight end 10 or 8 or something?
Yeah, with Justin
Something like
Fields.
that.
Or
Yeah. So like I feel like that could be a range of outcomes for Mason Taylor. And whenever you're doing these, you got to kind of think about what the community likes. The community really likes Mason Taylor. So if he comes out and has a Tucker Kraft type year, he could probably really propel himself up there.
I like this call. I like Mason Taylor a decent amount. He wasn't one of my favorite tight ends of this class. He was a very good tight end to me, a very good safety blanket, a guy who's going to get you right by the first down marker almost every single time. Kind of like in that ilk of a Dalton Schultz, Jake Ferguson, in that ilk, just a high PPR asset. I also like the fit of him in the Jets with Justin Fields, because we've seen Justin Fields target the tight end back in his days in Chicago with Cole Kmet. So I like this call by you. He was somebody that popped up into my mind as well. Rich, what do you think of Mason Taylor?
I like him a lot. Like I just mentioned, we just mentioned, it's going to be a lot of running around by Fields, and the tight end's always a safety blanket, and he's a tight end one there. So yeah, I think he's got a solid year of production. I think where is he at? He's a little lower on the ranks, which is a surprise to me. Just because there was a ton of rookie tight ends on there. He is 19 right now, behind guys like
Dynasty
Jake
pros?
Ferguson. Yeah, Dallas Goedert, which we know here Dallas Goedert's not going to be even close to that. So, yeah, no, I like it. Good pick.
How far along do you think he is from breaking into that top 8? You think it maybe by next year, 2 years down the line? Where do you see?
I think like, let's just say like I said, if he had a Tucker Kraft type year, like I definitely think he's in there. If he has, let's say he puts up like tight end 12 numbers, it might be another year. But I just feel like Mason Taylor is one of these players where I'm like, yeah, the film's okay. I think he could be a better pro than a college player personally, because just like him being so young, and then like, I hate everybody says, well, Jason Taylor's his dad, but I mean, hey, it somewhat does matter. They can get you ready for the pros. I think Zach Thomas is his uncle too.
Yeah, he's got a very, very high DNA football.
You know what?
DNA.
I'm looking at the depth chart, dude. He's tight end 1. Like I don't think it would be out of the realm to say he's going to have I would probably, I don't know. I don't want to put him in top 8, but I think he's going to have a more productive season than we really think.
He's going to be.
It's going to kind of be
I think he could be peaking in after this year, like a guy who has a nice season, and it's like maybe he hits like 400 or 500 yards and maybe 3-4 touchdowns, and we're looking at the stats after this year, and we're like, maybe we should bump up Mason Taylor just a little bit from like where he is now. Like, what'd you say, tight end 19 to like tight end 14, tight end 13 in your dynasty ranks, and he's starting to peak the glass of the tight end 8 landscape. So I like this call by you, Rich. Do you want to go next? Or do you want me to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. Dude, let me start off by saying tight end is like the hardest position.
That's why we're getting it out of the way.
Yeah.
And if this was last year, this was next year, I'd have a totally different guy in. So my guy is Dalton Kincaid. Your guy, Mike.
Oh, you sick bastard.
I know, dude. I wanted to tell you, dude, I don't want to give you my notable, or what is it called? What do you say? Honorable mention. But like I said, if this was next year, this guy would be completely different. I think Kincaid. There's not a lot of mouths to feed in Buffalo. Josh Allen really doesn't have that number one guy. Keon Coleman was not the guy they thought he was, at least so far. Last year he finished with 448 yards and 2 TDs as tight end 28. I'm confident that he's going to blow past that. I think like I said, he's number 11. I think there's one guy in particular that will come off this list as far as the tight ends in the top 8, and that's going to be Mark Andrews. I think he kind of falls out, and Dalton Kincaid kind of leapfrogs into there over Njoku and Tucker Kraft. Yeah, I think, dude, there's no one in Buffalo, so it's like kind of his story to write. Josh Allen loves to throw the ball. We've seen this, obviously. League MVP, just slinging it everywhere. And like I said, there's no mouths to feed there. You got Keon Coleman, who I was high on, coming in, really hasn't produced. And so I think it's, his kind of story to write, his ball to lose, and it's in his court.
Yeah, so this is a tough one because I like Kincaid faltering a little bit. It's more because of the soft tissue injuries that rearing its ugly head on him. Like he's kind of always banged up. That's kind of even going back to his days at Utah. Injuries just kind of, always rearing its ugly head. He's more of a wide receiver than a tight end, which we obviously want for fantasy football purposes. I agree with you. I do think we definitely see a more productive season from him this year if he can stay healthy. And by the way, you didn't mention Khalil Shakir, and I'm not going to let you not mention him because that dude's good. He's just solid. He's just a very solid wide receiver. But yes, I could see this happening this year where he kind of, reminds everyone why he was taken in the first round just 2 years ago or 3 years ago now by the Buffalo Bills. And he was a lot of people's, including mine, tight end 1 of that draft class. Rich or Andy, what do you think of Dalton Kincaid?
I hope you're right because I have so much Dalton Kincaid. It's not even funny. I love the film, and that was a big scare, is the injuries. And then I kind of made this call before it happened. I was like, I think Buffalo wants to do what Kansas City's doing and get themselves a really, really athletic, good tight end. And who better, than Dalton Kincaid? So, the injuries are what's going to kill him. Basically, like if he can stay on the field, he is good enough to be. He's good enough to be the number 1. Like I like Khalil Shakir a lot. I really do think Dalton Kincaid could take over if he can stay on the field, but it's just like he cannot stay on the field, and it's just like little injury after little injury, and I don't know, man. I really we need him to be on the field. Like we know the talent's there, and I'm fine with betting on them guys, but what happens if he goes down again? Does he lose like all of his value, and then what? I just hope he doesn't go into the Kyle Pitts like.
God!
I hate to even say it. In there. It's like it's like Voldemort to Harry Potter, Like you don't even want to mention. You don't even want to mention it, but
no, right?
Yeah,
that's prove it year for
somebody. That's definitely not somebody we're mentioning in this cornerstone is Kyle Pitts.
It is a prove it year for him, so let's see. I hope so.
Yeah, same here. I also do have a decent amount of shares of Dalton.
Are you guys? So like, obviously you're not selling him. He's a hold/buy, right?
So I did sell him in one league, and that's because I wanted a quarterback, and I traded him and 2 seconds, I believe, maybe 1. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look for a guy I really believe in, and that's going to be Michael Penix. So I wanted a quarterback. So I traded Kincaid in 2 seconds to get a quarterback. So I think, not nice, to be honest with you. Good.
No, I was going to say you really believe in Michael Penix, but I thought you believed in Kincaid. You bought his jersey and drove all the way up to Buffalo by yourself to see him. But, I guess not.
No, I'm still a believer. It's just
not that much.
I'm still a believer. I'm just I wanted a quarterback, a higher end super flex asset, in my opinion. That's why I traded him. Go ahead.
I got one thing I want to ask you guys. One more thing. Where would you guys rank Dalton Kincaid in this tight end class?
This one? Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
2, 3.
He's behind
5.
Warren. He's
behind Loveland, right?
I think. Yep.
Nichols frozen in time there.
Yeah, he is.
What the hell's...
Boy, I really broke the barrier there.
Yeah, you really
dude?
You sent me on a fritz, I guess. He's like a 2A, 2B with Loveland if he were to come out in this draft class because they're very similar players, right? They're wide receivers playing tight end. So he'd be like 2A or 3. Just really depends, especially with landing spots. Because now we have Colton Loveland who got top 10 draft capital. So
like, do we somewhat, because like I've been trying to like do some research on this. Do we almost feel like these guys that are strictly, pass catching tight ends, can that almost hurt them? Because we see Dawson Knox vulture touchdowns on like, play action and stuff because he's on the field because he can block.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been my fear, to be honest, with Colson Loveland, because I've been so far burned by guys like Dalton Kincaid, Luke Musgrave, who I also really liked in that draft class. So that has been my fear. And that's why, to be honest with you, instead of taking Loveland, I've taken the cheaper version of Loveland in like the 3rd round in Elijah Arroyo. So if I'm going to take a gamble on a guy like that, I'd rather do that in the 3rd round than I would like a mid to late 1st on Loveland. So yes, I am a little scared.
I agree.
But let's get into mine. Mine is going to be a real dark horse candidate because this isn't going to happen this year, especially because there's a player ahead of him. That is going to be tight end 23 on Fantasy Pros, tight end 24 on Dynasty, tight end 24 on Football Guys, and tight end 26 on Dynasty Nerds. We're really, really digging deep here. That is going to be tight end for the Cleveland Browns, Harold Fannin Jr. This is a dude
he's not even a tight end 1 on his own team.
Not right now. That's why we're predicting, right? Harold Fanning Jr., you could tell me he played in the MAC conference. I don't give a shit about any of that. One of the most productive seasons for a tight end in college football history. Not only did he destroy the MAC conference, he did it against Penn State. He did it at Big Ten. He did it against Texas A&M, an SEC school. This dude is a yards after catch machine. This dude is he didn't test athletically well at the combine, but I think his game tape athleticism looks better than what he did at the combine. A guy who can win contested catches, win across the middle of the field, is a decent blocker. I don't think that's a strong suit. I think he could obviously get better at that. And I think, being behind David Njoku right now is not a bad thing for him. And I think Kevin Stefanski wants to kind of use 2 tight ends because the wide receiver room outside of Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy is kind of wide open. So why not go 2 tight ends? You drafted him in the 3rd round. A guy who, is only still 20 years. You mentioned Mason Taylor only being 20. Harold Fannon's 20 years old as well. So there's still a lot of time for this dude to hit his peak. And let's not forget, David Njoku's on a contract year for a team that is in cap hell because of that Deshaun Watson contract, because of Myles Garrett's contract. If David Njoku balls out this year, he could be looking for big-time money and maybe have to go elsewhere. And that opens the door for Harold Fanning Jr. I could absolutely see. Obviously, like we mentioned at the beginning, tight end is probably the hardest to predict. And that's why I'm going to take a shot on a guy who's lowly ranked right now. You're getting him in the middle to the late 3rd of your rookie drafts, even tight end premium. A guy I fully believe in pre-draft was my tight end 2. Comp to Delaney Walker all day, every day. I honestly believe once Harold Fanning gets the opportunity to be a tight end, and again, he's not just the wide receiver playing tight end. He could play a lot of different positions. He lined up everywhere in college, in the backfield, on the line, in the slot. This is a do-it-all type tight end, and I want to get in before it's too late. Andy, we'll start with you.
He was very hard for me to evaluate because the production was absolutely crazy. And you would see him get downfield. He has some of the tightest hips I've ever seen. I thought he had, he just I don't know, man. Like I was like, where's the production? And you've seen it downfield. You've seen him make play after play. What do you have, 1,500 yards or something?
Yeah, it was crazy. The most productive season for a tight end in history.
And then he gets, 3rd round draft capital. And like you said, is it time to move on from Njoku? For Cleveland, they're not gone anywhere. So, yeah, it probably is. So, yeah, it's definitely going to take a couple years. So, do you buy him now? Do you draft him in the 3rd? I think that's fine. Like, I
He's a
think
great
that's fine.
stash.
I personally think you could probably even get him cheaper because if Njoku does half decent, then people are going to just forget about him because Njoku is a damn good tight end. But we're definitely got, like, if you want him, you're definitely going to have to bet that Njoku's gone.
Would you rather? Let me ask you this. This is another tight end from last year's class that really didn't produce, who's probably valued similar at this point because it's definitely taken a little bit of a hit. Would you rather have Ben Sinnott or Harold Fannin going forward? This one's pretty easy.
Probably Fannin for me, just because, like, I wasn't huge on Sinnott. Like, but
well, neither is Washington, I guess.
Yeah, right. They brought Ertz, didn't they? They brought Ertz back again, right?
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
So, like, but it is a good scheme for him. Like, I don't know though. Like, just film wise, I got to go Fannin there.
Rich, what do you think of Fannin? You see him possibly breaking the top 8 at some point in his, some point?
I thought, dude, I honestly thought I ran. So every one of these guys, I had guys who are going to break the top 8 this year. I think. I didn't know we were doing 5 years from now. Because then, if that was my case, I'd be sitting here singing about Isaiah Likely, who I would have said, in 2 years, I think he's going to be good. So I don't know, man.
You did say predicting the future.
I thought, I don't know, man. It seems like a cop out, dude. But maybe if I mean,
how the fuck is that a cop out?
Because you're saying in 3 years. All right, if in 3 years, I think he's going to be good. I thought it was next year. These guys are going to be top 8. You got to be spicy.
I did say
you just don't want to get roasted, dude. We're like, hey, in 2 years.
No. I did say
giving fucking caveats over here.
I did say in a year or more. I did say that.
Swear to God, I'm fucking reading the fucking.
He's gonna check his text messages
within the next year or so. What the hell is the or so?
That means more.
I guess you're taking the or so route. Okay. All right. You know what, dude? If my quarterback, I'm changing it to Arch Manning. So the next year or so, I think he's going to be in the top fucking 8. This is lunacy. Sure. In the next year, or I'm leaning more on the or so part. I think he's going to be in it. If we're going that route, yeah, I think Njoku can get a big payday with the not with the friggin' essentially the same as the Saints, the goddamn Browns, who are in cap hell along with the Saints. They're not going to be able to pay him. They got Fannin under the rookie contract, so he's got no other choice, right? Besides blowing up. Not this year, or so. I'm going with the or so. So yeah, I could say it.
So I was just on the Fourth and Fantasy podcast last night, and the hot take that Rocco had was that Harold Fanning would be the tight end 1 for the Cleveland Browns by the end of this season.
That's a spicy one.
Spicy one, but yeah. I love to see it. But Njoku's still just uber athletic. The dude played a game with half his face melted off,
and then comes back and play. I'm not doubting a guy that does that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the quarterback position. We'll start with you here, Rich, since you had a lot to say on that last one. Right. Who's your quarterback guy?
So I guess in the next year or so, I'm going to go with Mr. Trevor Lawrence, baby. My guy.
Is he tried it.
Yes, he's 25.
Yeah, okay. He makes.
He's currently number 16th ranked. He finished as QB 27, but that was only in 10 games. He played 10 games. He had the ace. Dog, I know, man. I looked at. You think I'm writing down my alphabets, dude? He had the concussion issues. He had the AC joint issues. He averaged 15.2 a game. 11 TDs, 7 INTs. Next year, he's projected 3,820 yards and literally to double his touchdowns and almost double his INTs. That's unfortunate. I know he will probably get those INTs because he loves to throw the ball around. He kind of plays hero ball, which is the issue, and I think that leads a lot to his interceptions. But let's talk about the addition of Travis Hunter. Dude, he's got Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. out there. I think that leads to at least doubling the touchdowns and the passing yards. He's going to be 200 off 4,000 yards projected. I think he's going to get closer to 4,000. with them two guys on there. And not to mention, I don't think this kind of goes without saying or goes under the radar. The running back room in Jacksonville is kind of stacked. They kind of got a nice, healthy running back room there that is going to help, Trevor Lawrence with his progression. That said, this kind of is my make it or break it year for him. I've been saying, since we started the podcast almost that, Trevor Lawrence is my guy. I had him top 5, last year or the year before? I think I've said that somewhere. But to break the top 8, I think he'll break it. He's got a chance to break it this year. I think they did lose a key factor in Evan Ingram. I think that kind of was like, what the fuck, dude? That would have been a killer, dude, if they would have kept him. But I guess who's their tight end one now? Strange.
Yeah,
I guess a big year for him. But
or Doug Peterson's son.
Or Tim Tebow. Maybe they'll bring him back. No, but I think this is kind of almost the best team that he's had so far.
Yeah, possible. Yeah, I think
so. Right. I think that wheels up for him. It's and this is the year he determines if he's that elite, franchise quarterback or he's not.
Yeah, this was what I said last year, but then he got hurt, so I gave him like an extra year to kind of prove it to me. I agree with you though. This again, I 100% make or break it year. This is a dude that was taken in, every single year, first round startup, super flex draft. Anywhere between like
I know I'm one of them, dude.
1.5 to 110 perennial year in and year out. The value for him right now is actually pretty decent if you were to go out and try to get a guy like Trevor Lawrence. And I think you brought that up on our buying quarterbacks episode, if I'm not mistaken. Some of the values for Trevor Lawrence. So I do agree. This actually might be the best, offensive team that he's had. I'm not sure about defensively. Just, pass catchers with Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter, the plethora of running backs. They have 4 guys that I think that, could be, either starters or RB2s on other football teams. And I kind of agree. He's got to show it to me this year. He's got to show he was worth that contract they just gave him. Andy, I know you and I have talked about this with Trevor Lawrence. I think even you said, what the fuck has he done? When we had a conversation about him. What do you think of Trevor? You think he gets back into that top 8?
There's a possibility, and the big reason why is Jacksonville's defense is not good. It was horrible last year. They did nothing to improve it. So if we're seeing him in shootout games with these 2 badass receivers, like he could definitely put up big numbers. And then the good thing about Trevor Lawrence as well, he just needs to get his ass down so he doesn't get smashed again, but he can run. Like he kind of provides that sneaky, like he's not crazy athletic, but if it's open, like he'll take it. So he does have that going for him as well. And Liam Cohen is here. I mean, look what he did with Baker. Like Baker was slinging it. Yeah, oh my god. Can't stand the fucking guy. But...
dude, I'm just like, what the fuck, dude? It's like on Instagram, it's like try not to cringe, and he's just like, dude,
right. I'm like looking around because I feel awkward just watching it. I'm like,
like this guy coaches a fucking chess team or something.
But I think it's a great buy. Honestly, he was on my list of guys of like.
Oh, we lost. We there? We lost you.
You lost
Mike?
me.
All right.
No,
we lost both of you.
We lost you, Rich.
Oh well, you both were frozen. And I'm just like, well, it's just me.
I think this is a guy that was borderline on my list. I'm like, I just couldn't pull the trigger, but I think it's a really good one, Rich.
Yeah. We'll go with mine since we let Andy lead off last time. We'll have him back clean up for us. I've had trouble with this one. I have 2 guys I really wanted to bring up, but I brought this guy up before. I don't really want to do it again. So I'm going to take a little bit more of a layup here on this one. I'm going to talk about Drake May, quarterback for the New England Patriots. I've been in 2 separate startups this offseason. He's been taking a quarterback 9 each time. Believe it or not, 9 both times, which is actually kind of funny. Quarterback 10 for fantasy pros, quarterback 11 for football guys, and he falls at quarterback 9 for Dynasty nerds. I am the reason why I decided to go with Drake May over my honorable mention, Michael Penix, is other than I talked about Michael Penix in our bye episode, I just got into an argument with like 3 separate people on whether I would rather have Bo Nix or Drake May going forward in Dynasty. And for me, I like Bo Nix, and the question's gotten a little bit harder, obviously, between the two. If you would have asked me last year, it would have been Drake May by miles. But Bo Nix came out and showed me something. But for me, Drake May still has this untapped potential that I think we started to see last year, but he probably had one of the worst supporting casts out of all the rookie quarterbacks. You could say Bo Nix didn't have the greatest, but he still had Cortland Sutton. He still had, who am I missing? Marvin Mims, who I love.
Oh gosh.
But I think, Drake May didn't start till week 6. So obviously he wasn't getting starting reps in training camp or any practices or anything like that. From week 6 to week 17, he was QB 14 at points per game at 16.8. Mike Vrabel comes in, who's going to change the standard in New England. They drafted Will Campbell. They brought in Rich's guy, Stephon Diggs. They drafted Kyle Williams, who we all really, really like. And then they brought in Travion Henderson, who's probably one of the best, if not the best, pass blocking running backs of this draft class. And honestly, if Drake May, I think he's going to break into that top 8 this year. I think he could be a top 5 guy in the future, like a guy you're taking in your early super flex drafts, your startup drafts year in and year out, because he's got the arm talent, he's got the rushing talent. If you were to tell me he rushed 54 times last year, I think that would be the low end, but we're talking about a guy who didn't start till week 6 and then, missed some time with injuries, didn't finish a full game. I could see him getting into that 80, 90 rushing attempts pretty perennially just because of the mobility that he has. And that could break fantasy. He's, I've comped him coming pre-draft to a Justin Herbert, Carson Wentz love child, which is an absolutely deadly combination. If it hits its peak, if it doesn't hit its peak, then we might be fucked. But I really believe that Drake May has the ability to be a top guy in Dynasty and in fantasy football coming soon. Andy, what do you think?
You're kind of selling them to me a little bit here, because I was a little bit lower on Drake May. I didn't particularly love the film, and then he came in and looked really good. I mean, he was throwing, to I don't know, that LSU guy, Booty, like the Booty dude, like throwing it to him. I do like. I think Travion Henderson's a big upgrade for these guys. Like, and I still, Ramondre is going to have his little bit of a role, but as you mentioned, Travion's probably the best third down pass blocker in this draft class. He runs super hard. He's very efficient. So, like, he's almost like a Jahmyr Gibbs light, where you can get him the ball, in limited opportunities, and he's going to make the best of it. Like, we've seen him do it with Judkins at Ohio State. So that's going to bring a really interesting twist to this offense. I was a big Jalen Polk guy. That was my I don't want to say big miss. It's only been 1 year, but he literally didn't do anything. I think, dude, I don't even know if he had 100 yards all year. So
him and Javon Baker, I've been floated around like cut candidates, but it's hard.
Dude, you love Javon. Who do you love more, Marvin Mims or Javon Baker? Man, that's a hard one for you.
It is. I think talent-wise.
Let me see. I've spoken to Javon Baker, but I have a jersey of Marvin Mims. Who is it?
Rich, what do you think of Drake May?
You know what? Very early on, I think I had Drake May ahead of Caleb Williams, if I'm not mistaken, when we were ranking the quarterbacks. I would say that wasn't far off last season. Now I think this year, obviously, Caleb, with the upgrades that they made, he's going to take a rocket ship to the moon, I think. But as far as Drake May, it's a good candidate. I do like what they're doing in New England. Don't want to give too much about Travion Henderson. That was already given because he might show up here somewhere. But no, as far as my guy Stephon Diggs there, I think he's going to help when he's healthy. But no, I think the progression with Drake May and now a full season, I think he's going to take off. And yeah, definitely. If you can pick him up somehow, I would. Um, now, guys like in his draft class, do you think he finishes better than Bo next year,
I do.
or do you do okay? Because Bo
I
Nix
think
was
we
kind of like
saw like this. This was the argument I got into. I think we've seen Bo's ceiling, which
I
is
do
not a
too.
bad thing.
I don't know,
Like I
dude, but I
think
don't know with Sean Payton. With Sean Payton, I think there is, I guess with Sean Payton, kind of his name precedes himself with guys that he's had, such as Drew Brees. Can he turn him into that? I don't know, but if there's
right.
anyone that could, it's him.
The thing is with what Bo did last year, he rushed 90 times. Like
Yeah,
I don't see
I don't
that
think he's going to
happening
do that
again.
again. Well, I don't think he
Yeah,
necessarily needs to, right? He doesn't need to
yeah.
this year or next.
No, I don't think because they brought in RJ Harvey, they brought in J.K. Dobbins, they brought in Evan Ingram as a pass catching option. But like if you
Sounds like
lose,
that sounds like he's he's going to have a good season, dude. They're bringing
he is going to
big
have a good
additions.
season. But if he loses a decent amount of those rushing attempts, a lot of those points go away too, as well. So
Sure.
it's he was QB9 on Fantasy Pros finish last year. I think
Mhm.
that's his ceiling, and that's
Yeah.
not a bad place to be. Like,
No.
and people think that's crazy that I say that, but like, if you were to tell
I think
me
it might
Drake
be a little
May,
crazy just because I think they upgraded the team. I think the Broncos are a better team than New England.
right now, yeah,
So
absolutely,
that kind of gives them a little bit more of a head start,
yeah,
in my
absolutely.
opinion. But
I think Drake May,
like I said, I had Drake May number. What they have him 2? Like I don't
you had him
remember
number one.
what I ranked them.
With
Did I?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then I had
did.
Jaden. Yeah, Jaden I think was 3rd. Whatever.
He was.
Whatever, dude.
Andy, let's
Dare
talk
to be
about your
different.
quarterback.
What's that?
Let's talk your quarterback.
All right. Well, so I don't want to give anything away with other guys. I probably would have did Caleb Williams just because I love Caleb. Like he's kind of like my guy, but we're gonna go to a guy that I think's very, very valuable and very underrated, and that's Brock Purdy at 25 years old.
Ah.
On KTC, he's quarterback 15. So with Brock Purdy, he just signed this 5-year deal to stay in San Francisco. Fits the offense really well. I love his competitive nature. Now hitting top 5, I think it's a little bit tough, like with the rushing upside. But we're doing top 8, so I think that is in a range of outcomes. So without a rushing upside, the touchdowns have to be there for him. We need a healthy CMC as well. But I think San Francisco kind of told us something in the draft, right? This is a loaded running back draft class, and they didn't take a running back till the 5th round in Jordan James.
Right, but do you think that speaks more to the strength of the class, like the players that they thought were, equal value kind of just kept falling? Or do you think that's, maybe what they thought is they have a healthy CMC in the wings?
So I feel like if they have like a little bit of doubts, and I'm sure there definitely is, right? Like, but I think they took like Jordan Watkins or something whenever they could have taken, a better running back, in my opinion,
Sure.
than James. So like they really went defensive heavy in the beginning of the draft, which is really what they needed. So like to me, I don't know, that's just how I feel. But they also move on from Jordan Mason. So maybe that gives us a little more confidence as well. Like I know they have Garendo, and they can make it work with a lot of these fast running backs. I mean, Garendo, we've seen Eli Mitchell. He was just an injury dude, like big time, but really fast. So I feel like they have somewhat faith in CMC coming back. Just imagine at pick 100 if they would have taken Cam Scatterbu or Byshell Tootin.
My guy.
Like I think Cam Scatterbu, I think he can fit a lot of offenses, but like with this outside zone scheme, like he is a little bit slower. But Tootin, man, I think that would have fit really, really well. They spend 1st round capital on Ricky Pearsall, and Juwan Jennings took a massive step forward last year. Brandon Ayuk got hurt early in the season, went down with the torn ACL, MCL. Can he get it going? Reports are he's taking a big step forward, but I mean, I think he probably starts on the pup. How do you guys feel about that?
About Brandon Ayuk? Yeah. I'm a
he's
bit
probably a
concerned
pup
about
guy.
that. Yeah, I think he's a pup guy. I think I've seen a lot of people saying that Pearsall is the better wide receiver than Ayuk. I think you and I also talked about this, Andy. I don't see that at all.
No.
I think Pearsall is a nice wide receiver. I don't see him as like a number one. I think he fits better as like a number two. If Ayuk was healthy, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable. But we're also talking about Ayuk, who has been very disgruntled with San Francisco. Yeah, he did get that payday, but then there's still those conversations on he doesn't really want to be there. So why the fuck did you sign the contract? There's another
Right.
Money.
Very true.
And I think that's like, how much of that is just bullshit and how much is real? Because like you said, he did sign a contract. So like, I don't know. We've seen that with Debo. Like, yeah, finally he's moved. So like even moving on from Debo, like, yeah, that sucks. But Debo was hurt a lot too. Like, he's a tremendous player when he's on the field. So they must have some faith in Ricky Pearsall and of course Juwan Jennings, as I mentioned earlier, and George Kittle. He's coming off an 1,100-yard season. So we would just have to admit we were wrong. The NFL was wrong. Like, he's Mr. Irrelevant, but like, he's a real deal, man. He single best value in my opinion in Superflex right now. Comes out his rookie year, led them to the NFC Championship game where unfortunately right away he got hurt. Actually, I think was that against the Eagles?
Yeah,
He might have got smacked somewhere. I don't know where it was.
It was.
Yeah.
The Eagles.
Yeah.
It was the Eagles game.
So the next year he takes San Fran to the Super Bowl. They come up short, but dude, that's really impressive to me. Like, and I personally think he deserves the money. Like, I mean, he might not be the sexiest player, but like, I'm even looking here. So, like you talked about Drake May. If Drake May did this with New England, so like say he puts up these massive numbers and takes them all the way, he's a top 3, top 4 asset. Like, people are going to value him higher. I think just on name value alone. So a big thing for me with Purdy is just that competitive nature. Like, you notice that with guys. Like, I'm a little bit lower on Cam Ward, but we know that Cam Ward's a competitor too. So like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, is he a real deal? Like, I love that competitive out of these guys.
Listen, I'm glad you mentioned that because he was almost my guy who broke into the top 8.
I thought he would. I thought he would be. So
you thought he was going to be my pick?
What's that?
You thought Cam Ward was going to be my pick?
Yeah, I definitely thought he was going to be your guy. I was ready for it.
I love Cam. Everything you're hearing out of OTAs about him is just super impressive. I saw, like, we're getting off topic, but I saw a report the other day where he was running. They had him and the wide receivers running routes against air, and A.O. Manor did something wrong, and he's like, "Hey, let's run that again. Let's do this again." Like, that's leadership qualities you want to see out of your quarterback. These are the things you want to hear out of your quarterback. But enough about Cam. Go ahead.
But another thing actually about Cam, did you hear he called all of his teammates when he got drafted there?
Yeah, which is like, how many you got to call? Like how much? It's like what, 52-man roster, 53-man roster? Like, that's fucking insane. There's so many glowing reports about that dude. I can't wait, to be honest.
Yeah, hey, you never know, like, with that competitive nature. But I feel like that's what Brock Purdy has too. So like, I'm going to give you guys a couple scenarios. So in my eyes of tearing down, have CJ Stroud, and I can get Purdy in a 27 first. We expect this to be a really good class. Is that something you guys would be interested in?
Yeah, to be honest, I might be a little interested in that.
That's where I'm at.
But I'm more interested, I guess, because the sweetener in the one than it would be in Purdy in general. In my opinion, I think Purdy is 14.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, and there's 3 other guys like all we just talked about in Nix, May, and Williams. I think that will peak into the 8 before Purdy does. For me, I don't see it happening just because of those 3 guys. I think there's too many guys ahead of him in line that can kind of jump into that role. Could be wrong, but that's just how I feel about at least those 3 guys under 25.
Andy, I hate to tell you this. Last week's episode, we did sells on quarterbacks. And you want to take a guess at who my sell at quarterback was?
It was Brock Purdy, huh?
It was Brock Purdy. Listen, I think it's a very good story. I think he's overexceeded expectations, obviously. And I don't think he's a bad quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. I am known as the Brock Purdy hater in a group chat, and I guess I got to continue that. But they're coming off of a down season, right, with the 7th oldest roster in football. They traded away Deebo Samuels, which we don't think Deebo Samuel. I don't know why I added an S there. But Deebo Samuel. We don't think he's the best wide receiver in football, but he was a target earner. He was really good with Brock Purdy. Brandon Ayuk's going to be out for X amount of time. I don't really believe in the pass catchers that he has currently. Trent Williams is another year older and also is banged up pretty often. I think, to be honest with you, I think that the 49ers might be on the downslope, right? I think
going back to the old 49ers we're all used to.
Yeah. And this is a team like
Drew.
that's perennially banged up. Like they always have guys that, they're missing a lot of top talent for weeks at a time, which is very crazy to think about. Some trades that I brought up during that episode was which side would you rather have? Brock Purdy and DeAndre Swift or Justin Herbert and Dalton Schultz and tight end premium?
Oh yeah, I'd rather have Justin Herbert there.
Yeah.
That's kind of a wild trade.
Yeah, it is, because I think people are very excited about what DeAndre could do, right? With being the only running back in town. Another one I have is Brock Purdy, a 2nd and a 3rd for Patrick Mahomes.
Oh yeah, that's not really. That's not. Yeah, them aren't really close to me.
I know. These are stuff that I found on dynastydaddy.com. Some of the Purdy trades were very interesting, right? That's kind of what led me to a sell, and I have 3 bets going that he finishes outside the top 12 in fantasy scoring this year. And the reason, other than the older roster, is I think there's quarterbacks that finish outside the top 12 that could push their way in. Kind of like what Rich mentioned with the Dynasty rankings. We didn't see a full year of Dak Prescott with an upgrade to the offense that he's gotten. I think now my list is gone. I think Dak could take the next step. I think Michael Penix could get into that top 12 thing. Yeah. So I think, there's a chance Purdy could fall outside the top 12 fantasy scoring this year.
See, here was my thing with Mahomes. I actually talked about Mahomes here too. So I even said, I'm fine with giving away Mahomes. Can you get a 1st and maybe get another solid asset, like an older veteran? So like that would be trades that I feel like you could get for Purdy with how they're ranked. That's what's wild. Because if you could, think about this, if you could get Mahomes, give away Mahomes, get Purdy and a 1st and even a solid veteran, then you're working with 2 firsts. You can move them and compete, because really Mahomes and Purdy put up almost the same points per game last year.
Yeah, no, you are right on that. They definitely finished.
But if that's not what the going rate is, that is wild to me. I have a ton of Purdy.
I've been seeing Mahomes in the past 2 startups fall into the 2nd round of startups, and then I've seen Purdy go in the 4th round. So what do you how do you value that difference? I don't know if it's 1st. I think a 1st might be too much at that point.
Yeah, it definitely.
It just really
mean
depends.
Giving up a 1st?
Yeah,
could be.
I guess it really depends on where your 1st could end up.
Yeah, I think it depends where it ends up, but and I think it depends how where people rank Mahomes too, because if he comes back out with Rashee Rice and now he has Worthy, Mahomes is always going to have that name value attached to him.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of wild that he's even going in the 2nd with a lot of people. Not saying that he shouldn't, but it just seems like people are always higher on Mahomes.
Yeah. I think that, like you mentioned, the name value is what gets him there. And I do think they've made some nice upgrades from a pass catching standpoint in Kansas City with getting Rashee Rice back, Brashard Smith, Jalen Royals, who we all really, really like on this podcast as well. So I do think we see a different Kansas City next year with a little bit more explosion, because that's kind of what they were missing, because it was just Xavier Worthy. Hollywood Brown was out, Rashee Rice was out. You still had Travis Kelce, but he didn't really look himself until towards the end of the season. for Kansas City. But let's get into our wide receivers. Rich, we'll start here with you since Andy just finished up.
All right, so I'm gonna go with you. Sound like you're from London, with Drake London, dude. Here's a guy that I'm not really high on. It's kind of, I don't know. I think I'm kind of turning the page here. London finishes wide receiver 6 with a direct, Kirk Cousins under the center. I know we talked previously about who is going to be the quarterback, but I think since we've spoken about that, they've kind of leaned towards, we're just going to have the $100 million backup in Kirk Cousins, and they're going to give Michael Penix the ball. He had him for those. He played 14 games. He finished wide receiver 6 in 14 games with Kirk Cousins, who is god awful. I think now with Michael Penix, it's kind of going to be they're going to kind of grow together, which is fantastic. Drake May's only 23 years old. I think he's got nothing but the moon to go. He had 1,271 yards and 9 TDs last year. 9 TDs is a pretty solid number. I think he kind of gets in the 12, 13 range with Penix there, especially if we have, a guy like Kyle Pitts who does absolutely nothing out there for the offense. Didn't mean to sneak that one in there, but kind of did. I think he's right now he's at the 9 position. And I think it's a no-brainer. He can move up to the 8. A guy I think, dude. Yeah, there's no way I see him finishing lower than 8 this year, especially with Michael Penix.
I loved what they did with Michael Penix and Drake London at the end of that season. You want to talk about hyper-targeted? Drake London was absolutely a fucking man-possessed with Michael Penix. And Michael Penix even talked about it during OTAs. They asked him, like, do you think Drake London is underrated amongst the league wide receivers? And he's like, he won't be after this year. And that got my ears a burning because I love Michael Penix. And then, again, he was an honorable mention. Drake London was a guy I thought about, but I've talked about him at nauseum on this show about how I think he is a guy who is going to be like a perennial league winner, a guy who could just absolutely take over games, take over to, forget about him. But we saw that third year of break route happen, and I think it's going to continue on. Andy, what do you think about Drake?
So the last 3 weeks with Michael Penix, Drake London's seen 39 targets and eclipsed 100 yards twice.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah, so he was definitely hyper-targeting him. My big concern, though, with Penix, it seems like you guys both are really on Penix, and I think he has a tremendous arm. I loved watching the film at Washington with all them receivers there. Is the injuries. I just hope that he can stay healthy because that was his big time knock, coming out. So I love Drake London. I mean, he did what he did with a washed up Kirk Cousins, and he's
exactly.
And the time splash with Desmond Ridder.
And that's why I get so mad about look, okay, Ted's a good player. Ted McMillan's a good player. He is not Drake London.
Agreed.
I personally, I don't see it, man. Drake London is that guy. Oh my God.
He's closer to a Mike Evans for me than Ted McMillan is.
Yeah.
Just the play style. He's a bit more physical than Ted McMillan, in my opinion.
And he can run routes, dude.
He can definitely run routes.
Yeah, Drake is built different, dude. I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. And it's a great sign for fantasy when we see a quarterback just hyper target a player like this. So I love it.
Yeah. Andy, who do you got at wide receiver?
So I'm gonna go to Chicago here. And
you sick bastard. Who is it?
You sick bastard.
Rome Odunze. So obviously, Ben Johnson brings us some hope to this offense. He's made it known how impressed he is with Odunze. Caleb still showed some promise, even year 1. But I think going into year 2, we're definitely going to see an upgrade. They bring in Joe Thuney. Jonah Jackson, which, we'll see what happens. You got to remember Jonah Jackson was with Ben Johnson before. I think he had something really wrong with his back. He was a Pro Bowler at one time, so we'll see if he can get it back on track. They decided not to draft a running back. They're going to roll with Swift because that was kind of the big thing. Like, is Ashton Genty going to go here? What's going to happen? So with all this help, along with the scheme, it's going to give Caleb a lot more time to get the ball down the field. And I don't believe Romadunze is just a pure outside X. I think he can operate in the slot. They're going to move him around in motion. There's a lot of rumors DJ Moore could be out. We'll see. I mean, I'm not even betting on that. I think Odunze, he could still be the number one there. I mean, we go back. We even look with like JSN, how we said, like, hey, we're going to have to wait a year. We're going to have to wait a year. It's the same thing. And I think a lot of people just get very impatient in Dynasty when these guys don't hit year one and they just kind of throw all the film out and they just don't really just kind of let it go and just go for this win now asset, which is it's a fine thing. I guess it's how you play Dynasty, but I'm going to buy Roma Dunze all day long. So we look, he has top 10 draft capital and a loaded wide receiver class. And people are worried about Luther Burden, and a much weaker class goes in the second round. Mike, I know you do like Luther Burden. I do have some questions with Luther Burden. I think he's a damn good player, but like there's some red flags for me. So I think this door opens back up a little bit, as it seemed like it was shut when Ben Johnson first came into town. Them drafting Loveland and Burden, maybe it opens back up a little bit and we can try to get Roma Dunze.
So I am very glad you brought him up because I don't have to do it. And I have been preaching the love for Roma Dunze on this podcast and the breakout that's coming this year for him. He is the only one of the wide receivers that you just mentioned when it comes to Luther Burden and DJ Moore that have gotten a pleasant review from Ben Johnson. The things I've heard about DJ Moore is that Ben didn't like his presence on the field. Like he was, a little mopey. He was this, he was that. He even, corrected DJ Moore during practice with that. He's talking about how frustrated he is, or, not frustrated. That's not probably the right term, but, saddened by the fact that Luther Burden has some injuries right now and hasn't participated in OTAs. Yep. Then you got a guy in Roma Dunze who didn't need to go to voluntary OTA. These are voluntary. He's a second-year player. He decided to show up at voluntary OTAs. And Ben Johnson has been singing his praises since then about this. He's very impressed with his work ethic, very impressed with his mentality when it comes to, learning the playbook, being a wide receiver. I'm very excited.
Further in time.
Yep. Adunze did it.
This is her fault, but my other wide receiver. Rich, what do you think?
Dude, for the same reasons you're also crazy about him, I don't think I'm that crazy about him. You're saying, oh, well, he showed up to OTAs. I'm glad he came to do his job. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Voluntary.
Like
you don't have to.
Yeah, there's voluntary, but there's 400 guys on there. It's not a, oh, this is out of the kindness of your heart. It's a smart move. There's 5 wide receivers there and a tight end who we all just talked about being, wide receiver-esque tight end. So I don't know if I can necessarily say it's, just because he loves football. I think it's a smart move by him, just because he can, supplant himself in the offense. I think there's a lot of mouths, and I think maybe next year I can say something like this, but this year I kind of have to wait and see where he lands, because I think Loveland's going to be a huge part of this offense, huge part of the receiving offense. Like, we just talked about it in Kincaid being the receiving tight end. I think Loveland, again, is like that. So, again, with DJ Moore, him, I'm waiting to see.
What if that door closes, though? That's what I'm scared. What if that door closes?
What, as far as
like the buying opportunity? Because these guys, like when they
that's true.
Because like JSN was like, okay, we can obtain him, and then now he took off. It's like you got to give up 2 first,
right?
They almost
so. I guess in terms of buying before the door closes, sure, yeah, but
just a little hesitation. I get that. I get that.
I think he's the best all-around wide receiver that they have there currently.
I do too. I'm just putting my chips.
Upside. I love DJ Moore.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm just putting my chips on the guy that I think's the most talented in the room, and just kind of like roll the wheel and see what happens.
Yeah, love that call. I didn't have to be the one to do it. I'm glad you took the reins for me. I'm going to go with my wide receiver. And it's somebody you mentioned, Andy. You know, he didn't have the best rookie season, but he came out and looked great year two. That is going to be a guy who's ranked 13th on Fantasy Pros, 11th on Football Guys, and 12th in Dynasty Nerds. Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. A report came out from Michael Duggar, from a writer for The Athletic for the Seahawks, said, OTA observations, Seahawks look like they're installing. Let's have JSN line up everywhere because he's good at everything offense, which seems very wise. That is something we, as you know, after they signed Cooper Kupp, had a lot of questions about because these are two slot wide receivers. And to hear that the Seahawks are planning to use JSN in a multitude of ways is very promising. We're talking about a guy who was 11th in targets last year at 133. 11th in targets, 7th in receptions with 100 last year, with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett still on the roster last year. Now it's just Cooper Kupp, who hasn't looked the same in quite a few years from now. I am very excited for what JSN could bring to our dynasty rosters. Rich and I loved him coming out of college. We both kind of come into an Amon-Ra St. Brown type player. I think it's wheels up for him. I still think he's relatively obtainable in fantasy football because people are a little bit concerned about the Cooper Kupp role when it comes to slot participation. But again, the things we're hearing out of OTAs, they kind of matter when it comes to, lining up on an offense. So I'm very excited to see what JSN could bring in the future here for us. Rich, give your thoughts.
You know what? I think I'm with you on it, but I think he's almost unattainable. Andy just mentioned it, at least 2 first-round picks. Everyone left. We just talked about it. DK Metcalf is in Pittsburgh. Tyler Lockett's in Tennessee. You got Cooper Kupp, who is, he is what he is. He's a solid wide receiver, but you're always waiting for the other shoe to fall with him. Now I think this is finally JSN's team. I think it's kind of, out of the reach. He's kind of out of reach for guys unless you want to pay up and pony up, because I think this is the season he takes off. This is the season where he solidifies. If there's anyone in kind of lists of getting into the top 8, I think it's JSN. I don't think Kupp is really a competition for him in terms of targets. I think it's going to be well known that it's his team. Will he get the ball? Can Sam Darnold get him the ball? That is remains to be seen. But I think in terms of being in the top 8, yeah, I think for sure. But in terms of obtaining him, you're going to have to pony up, I think.
He's still going in the late 3rd round of startups.
Really? That's
really
insane.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
He just went
wild.
I'm in one
That's
right now.
insane.
He just literally, and I'm talking about 20 minutes ago, he went at the 311.
Wow.
Damn.
Yeah.
How many leagues are
I
you
think
in?
people are
dude?
scared because of Cooper
He's
Kupp. I think
fucking right.
people are scared because of Cooper Kupp.
I guess unless
That's
you're
insane.
like,
If you're scared of Cooper Kupp, come on,
Right?
dude.
you don't
And
believe
Sam
in him.
Darnold.
That's
I do think Sam Darnold is a slight downgrade to Geno Smith from what we've seen in Geno.
He could. He could be, but he provided
Not by much.
Yeah.
He provided for Justin Jefferson. Like
Exactly.
yeah,
That's insane. That's a steal. That might be the heist of a century. At 311?
like
Jesus Christ. Give me a guy who went before him.
You got Garrett Wilson went before him, which, to be honest with you, I think I'm at the point where I would take JSN slightly above him. Slightly. That's very close.
It
It's
is
like
close.
1A.
Mhm.
It's so the wide receivers that went ahead of him in the most recent are Lad McConkey, Garrett Wilson, and JSN. They went 1, 2, 3. So Lad
McConkey's going to go. Lad McConkey's going to go down, in my opinion, slightly, not by much. But JSN is literally the only Cooper. You're afraid of Cooper Kupp, then don't play
I
fantasy
think it's more
football,
because
dude. That's
of like
insane.
they brought in another guy who plays a very similar role, and I think people get scared by that.
But don't you? That should tell you that right away. Like they're obviously not going to have 2 guys just play the slot. Like that doesn't make any sense.
It's been pretty impossible to
Right?
happen. Yeah.
Right. Like, are they going to stand? Like, is he going to piggyback him? Like, I don't understand. That should tell you right there that tells me right there. Cooper Kupp's a slot guy. He's an older guy. He's not going to line up outside. JSN's going to line up outside for the most part. Maybe there's going to be times that they switch, but
it's a split.
Right. But like, there's no way I'd be scared off by Cooper Kupp. Jesus Christ.
No. It was the same thing with Puka Nakua. Everybody was scared off Puka Nakua, like when Cup come back, and I mean Cup put up some
Right.
numbers, but Puka's a dog.
He is the dog, man. Do you have any thoughts on JSN real quick before we get to the running backs?
Yeah, I think it's a great one. I mean, getting him that late's pretty wild to me. Like, I mean, he really came out last year, and even above DK Metcalf, who just got a big payday by my Steelers. He proved he was the number one on the team. It wasn't DK Metcalf. It was Jackson Smith and Jigba, in my opinion. So
I had the 3-2, to be honest, and he was a thought for me, but I ended up going Marvin Harrison Jr., which I'm okay with doing that.
That's just fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Upside.
Yeah. Let's get into our running backs. Andy, let's start with you here.
All right. Well, I'm going to stay in Seattle here, and this might be a little bit wild, but I'm going to go Ken Walker.
Man,
So
for some reason, I thought you were going Damian Martinez. I was so fucking excited. Ready to jump through the fucking ceiling.
I couldn't do that. I mean,
I know.
Fucking punter went ahead of him, so which is wild.
Fucking insane.
I know. So I know Walker's been a little bit disappointing here. Seems like he's banged up a lot. I think we can all agree Washington play is fun. I know he only played 11 games last year, but he did average 16.4 points per game last year. When he was coming out, big knock on him was his pass catching. Well, last year in them 11 games, he caught 46 balls. They add the new OC here in Clint Kubiak. Love this ad. So I know we were all a little bit upset that they, moved on from their offensive coordinator, Grubb. And
which made no sense also.
It did not make sense, but I think the only guy that I would have really, I'm fine replacing with is Clint Kubiak. Mm-hmm. So in his zone scheme, I think Walker fits it very well. Going back to the older days here, his dad, Gary Kubiak, he had some monster season for some running backs. You look at Dalvin Cook's 2020 season. He's the offensive coordinator. Cook was running back 3. Justin Forsett with the Baltimore Ravens in 2014. He was a Pro Bowler. And Arian Foster's memorable 2010 season at 1,600 yards, 66 catches, and 16 touchdowns. So, again, this is his dad, Gary, but kind of has the same philosophies here. Clint showed us with Alvin Kamara last year. He was running back 9. He just fit the scheme so well. And we got to remember, Kamara was given away for peanuts, really. I mean, you could acquire him for a second-round pick. Kubiak has come out and said how excited he is for Kenneth Walker in the scheme and how they want to feed him the ball. And they want to throw him the ball as well. So I love the ad in the draft here. They get Gray Zabel. I thought that was a great pick for them. Big guard out of North Dakota State. This is also a contract year for Kenneth Walker. So as I always say, with these injuries are scary, but this may give him the incentive to try to play through some of these nagging injuries. And he's still in his prime at only 25 years old.
See, I was all in on Kenneth Walker. We had Fourth and Fantasy on for the running back buys episode, and somebody brought up Ken Walker as a running back buy, and I was with it. And then I see he's banged up already in off-season workout, and I'm like,
Jesus, is he really?
Yeah,
I did not know he's banged up already. He'll be fine.
Oh my God!
I call him Mr. Oblique Outlook. Because it's always an oblique injury with him. And first of all, I don't even know where the fuck that is, to be honest with you. So I like Kenneth Walker. I do. I think he's an explosive running back, right? My problem
for 6 games out of the year.
Yeah. The problem with him is when he's out, Zach Charbonnet looks also really good too. So it's
don't
hard.
steal all my thunder, Mike.
Oh,
no, that's not my guy. But I just have so much thoughts on that. It's like I would buy Ken Walker, but like it has to be the perfect mix. Like I have to have Charbonnet on my roster already somehow to have Ken Walker. You know what I mean? It's like I love Ken Walker a lot, but it's like, dude, I play a lot of redraft each year, and it's like I'll pick up Charbonnet in free agency in like week 4. Ken Walker will go down week 5, and then for 3 straight games, I got Charbonnet giving me 25 plus. Charbonnet's he's in my roster in my lineup every week when Ken Walker's out. So it's like I get I get wanting to buy him. If you buy him super low, yeah, absolutely. But it's like you got to know that he is going to miss a handful of games each year. Now, like you said, a contract year kind of cures all of a sudden,
It's
NL
not hurting
and
that
this
bad
and
right
that.
now.
Yeah, suddenly you're not that hurt anymore. I get
Right.
that. But like like if I could get him low, then yeah, but like damn, he's always hurt, man. He's
I
always hurt.
know that's the downfall with Kenneth Walker. I
Mm,
love this scheme for him though. I really think he is going to explode. He's a name. He's somebody that like I want on my team this year, and then I think we got to move on. Like it's contract year, we got to move on. But
mm,
he's a name too that like as you mentioned, Brees Hall. He is a name that a lot of people are like, oh, I love Kenneth Walker, but he's never really provided that big year like we've always hoped.
yep.
So
Mhm.
like that's why I
For
think
sure.
if he does have this big year, I think it's really going to propel him because the community's already high on him, and it's just going to kind of snowball if he has a big season. I think it could happen.
Yeah. What would you be willing to give up for him, real quick, before we move on?
Uh, I think a late first I'd feel okay with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
I
that's fair.
I recently, damn, what's a trade that I did? It was a 10 team, so like I was loaded at quarterback. I wish I could remember what it was, but it was something like I moved back in the draft. Like I moved back like I don't know 5 spots or something, and I got Ken Walker.
Mm,
So
that's not
like he
bad.
was kind of a throw in. Like I could have drafted. Let's see, I could have drafted probably Amari and Hampton, and I traded back and got Ken Walker. So.
Yeah, I don't mind that, to be honest. I kind of like it.
Yeah,
But
that's not
I
too
think a
bad.
lot of people are frustrated because it is frustrating whenever you have a guy on your roster like you're relying on this dude, and if he's not playing, it does suck. That
Kind of
16.4
screwed,
that
yeah.
I said, it don't matter if he's not on the field. So it does suck, but I think that's a time whenever we can strike because I think this scheme is perfect for him.
Agreed. Rich, I think you and I might have the same person at running back, just based on a comment you made earlier. So I'll let you go first.
All right. So my guy is currently running back 15 on the list. And I think aside from
That's the
Ashton
same
Genty,
guy.
landed in the best possible scenario, and that's Travion Henderson.
Yep, it's the fucking
Like
guy
Is that
I
your
have.
guy? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, you know what? Well, great minds think alike. He's behind a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, who finished last year at running back 25. Dude, 25. He landed in the best situation, I think. I think maybe by midseason, he's the number one guy. He has a proven ability to gain yards after the contact. I think he has it's his job to lose. I think Ramondre Stevenson has had them hanging on by a thread. He's had this job by a thread for the past
And he
couple
drops
seasons.
it
They didn't
on the
really go.
ground with
Yeah,
fumbles.
exactly. He gives them every reason to kind of move on from him, and then they really didn't make moves at running back until this year. So history is going to repeat itself, and eventually Travion Henderson is going to be the number one. Um, yeah, Ramondre Stevenson doesn't scare me. It's just I really, really liked where he landed there, man. I think it couldn't have worked out better for a guy like him.
I see. The thing is, I completely agree, and it pisses me off because this is who I wanted to talk about. So I kind of had, once you said something earlier, I had to start scrambling. So this might not be the best pick that I have, but again, Travion Henderson's film is just great from this last year, right? He ran a sluggo route from the outside in a game, which is a double move, which is something running backs really aren't always asked to do from lined out wide positions. Just a premier pass catcher, an electric playmaker. We saw him in the playoffs make, what did he have, like a 65-yard TD run or 80-yard TD run or something fucking crazy like that. This is the kind of explosion that the Patriots needed that they've missed. So I really like this call by you, Andy. What do you think?
I love it. So like he is nipping at the heels for me with Amari and Hampton, like as that number 2 guy for me. Like I think when it's all said and done, like we're gonna be like we made a mistake. Like we didn't draft Travion Henderson high enough. And to go back to that trade that I did with the Ken Walker, trading back, I ended up getting Travion Henderson with that pick. So,
So that's
wow.
nice.
Okay.
That's
So it ended up being what? Ken Walker and
Travion Henderson. I think it was like
from
I can't remember if they took Hampton, but it was somebody in that like top 3. But
that.
he's just, I love the efficiency out of these like guys like him. Like that's a big thing that I love with Gibbs. Like you give them limited carries and they make the best of it, which you can give Gibbs a big time workload and he'll still make the best of it. But already seeing that with Judkins, like back in college, as I mentioned earlier, I think it just provides like how safe this player is. Like if Ramondre comes out trotting, and I'm sure he will week 1, just because that's just kind of what they do, right? Like they're always going to play the veterans to start the season.
Sure.
He still has a chance to put up massive points. And I think you can get really creative with a guy like Travion Henderson, like put him in the slot, like move him around. He can run routes, dude. Like, and then whenever you are protecting your young quarterback with his pass, bro, you're only going to get on the field more.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the biggest thing, right? I think pass blocking is the best way for rookie running backs to get on the field. That and explosion. And Travion has both of those in spades. So I'm kind of pissed you stole this one from me, Rich. But,
Sorry.
Great minds think alike. And I'm very happy somebody brought him up in this episode. So I had to scramble for my next pick. And I looked at 2 separate places. He's running back 9. I almost went somebody a little later, but you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go with that guy. It's going to be, I'm going to double check these rankings real quick because I was going to mention Omarion Hampton, but I think that's just such a fucking easy layup answer. I don't love doing that, but
I don't either.
I've been the biggest like Omarion Hampton fan. Honestly, at RB20, there's a 24-year-old back that just got drafted to one of the best offensive lines in football in the second round to a team that really needs explosion, needed a guy who can run the football for having Bo Nix run 90 times. That's going to be fucking RJ Harvey, man.
Oh, man.
I had to scramble to find somebody since Rich took Travion. And this is a guy, we just talked about explosive plays. That is RJ Harvey, right? One of the best athletically gifted running backs in this class, a guy who could take it to the house at any second. The biggest thing for him is going to be pass blocking, obviously with that age, and I think that's the reason why they brought in a J.K. Dobbins type running back.
I thought you forgot about the legend that is J.K. Dobbins signing there.
Listen, if you're afraid of J.K. Dobbins, you didn't deserve R.J. Harvey, right? I think R.J. fits like that. I'm not comping him to Alvin.
He's the 19th highest paid running back in the league, dude.
What the fuck does that mean? There's 32 of them.
Whoa,
he's less than half. But I think R.J. Harvey fits like that Alvin Kamara type role in the Sean Payton offense. A very good pass catcher. Behind one of the best offensive lines in football, not really talked about enough. And the guy in Bo Nix that is willing to check it down to the running back. We saw with Javonte Williams last year, a plethora of targets and just looked like shit on every single one of them. So the guy who could probably break into the top 8 with an explosive year.
In a year or so? Are you going to say in a year or so?
No, I think
he
could do it this year. I think he could do it this year. He's RB19. He is 24 years old. But I like to do my rankings. I don't know if you agree with this, Andy and Rich. I like to look at a 2 to 3 year window, right? I like to look at what these guys could be in 2 to 3 years. And I still think R.J. Harvey at 24 years old could be a top scoring running back for fantasy football for the next 2 to 3 years. And that's why he'd still break my top 8 in running backs, just because of the fantasy points he's going to put up in a Denver Broncos-led offense. Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, watching RJ Harvey's film, I was like, okay, like I like him, didn't love him, but he gets that second round draft capital. He goes to the tremendous spot, the spot we wanted everybody. We all
for real.
we were like, oh, it's gonna be Omarion Hampton, oh, it's gonna be Tootin, oh, it's gonna be Henderson, like, and it's fucking RJ Harvey in the second round. So like, if Sean Payton has beliefs in this guy, and I'm not saying I hated the film, I'm in, man. Like, I'm definitely in. The only problem is like sometimes it feels like people get out of control with it. Like I've seen certain trades where like because it says running back 20, but like okay, so I was in a rookie draft, and I'm rebuilding. I have Saquon Barkley on my team. It was like pick 2. So I was gonna take Travis Hunter. I'm a big Travis Hunter believer. It's like, fuck it. I'll just trade Barkley. Like I need my team to suck. And they're like, oh, I need a running back. They took RJ Harvey at 2. And I was like, oh, I was gonna offer you Saquon Barkley. He's like, okay. Like he's not gonna do it. I'm like, you'd rather have RJ Harvey than Saquon Barkley? Like, what are we doing here?
That's
insane.
insane.
I can't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, for granted, maybe they're not into the dynasty community as much or fantasy. Like, I don't know this person, but like, I'm just like, man, what can I get for RJ Harvey now? Like, I really like this dude, but you know,
7
if I can
first-round picks. Jesus Christ,
right? So like, I mean, it's just kind of like a wave of hype and a wave not. But I mean, being at running back 20, that definitely seems too low for me. Like,
Yeah,
I think he has a chance to come out here and catch a lot of football. Sean Payton's made it known too. Like, he's like, hey, you know, I've had small backs, and I'm not saying RJ Harvey's a small back, but he's had guys like Sproles. He's like, I make sure to.
He's built.
Yeah, and he's like, I make sure to try to give these guys the best matchups. Like, he's like, sometimes they're going to have to face the bigger guys, but we're not going to make a habit out of it. So,
yeah, you better tell me you like RJ Harvey because you sniped me in several different fucking leagues for RJ Harvey. So I don't want to hear shit from you. Rich, real quick, your thoughts on RJ Harvey?
I'm going to go outside the box on these thoughts here. I think the Denver Broncos have a running back room of a lot of people who have a lot to prove, right? Audric Estime, who I was high on last season, coming out of Notre Dame, and then you got J.K. Dobbins, both coming off hurt. Both those guys have a lot to prove, and I think they're going to make the most of it when they see the field. Does that hinder RJ Harvey? Does that eat in his time? You know, if I'm Sean Payton and I see Estime, you know, running the ball every opportunity he gets, he runs for 5 or 6 yards. Is he going to turn into the bell cow back there? J.K. Dobbins, who has a history of really bad injuries, but every time he sees the field, he plays well. Ever since Baltimore, you know, he's played well. He's been a good running back, in my opinion. I think it's a crowded room. I think it's a crowded room, and I think it's a lot more, you know, up to interpretation. But there's a lot of guys there, man, and I don't think it's RJ Harvey's room from the beginning.
So counterpoint to that is J.K. Dobbins, you mentioned the injuries, has never fucking played a full season of NFL football.
I'm not saying he's Adrian Peterson, but he plays. He plays well when he sees the field. You know.
Yeah, and then Audric Estime is limited as a running back when it comes to like pass catching and stuff like that. I do think Audric Estime is a nice running back. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a 4 yards in a cloud of dust type running back. I thought he would have been a nice compliment to RJ Harvey, but I guess Sean Payton kind of had a different opinion about that, bringing in J.K. Dobbins. So I kind of agree with what you're saying, but I think the cupboard is...
It's a weird dynamic that they have going on there.
The cupboard outside of RJ Harvey is like a bunch of Tupperware, but you can't find the lid. You're not really sure what lid fits with this. What, you know, that's what you go to look at my cupboard right now. That's exactly what it is. But I think RJ Harvey's the best of that bunch.
Fucking cupboard, dude. Are you from the South, dude? It's a cabinet. It's a cabinet, bro. It's a fucking cabinet. Fucking
whatever.
Old Mother Hubbard stuffed in a cupboard, dude.
RJ Harvey is the best running back in Denver, in my opinion. Again, still pretty lowly ranked, like I mentioned. And we're talking, again, in football guys, he's running back 18 in Dynasty. I think he should be higher than that, but especially with second-round capital. All right. Well, that will do it for our cornerstone pieces. It has been a really fun episode. A lot of hot topics, a lot of guys that we all kind of agree on too, which is good to see because it means the future is bright for our dynasty rosters. Andy, tell the people where they can find you, everything you got going on. Tell us about your awesome Discord as well. Say goodbye to the folks and whatever else you got.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on, number one. You know, it's always great to talk with other people and get other opinions as well. So you can find me at FFA Train. Also, I have the Fantasy Football Power Hour working with Player Profiler and Fast Draft. So if you don't have Fast Draft, get a hold of that. Use the promo code POWER, and they will match you up to $50. So it's just a really nice best ball app. I don't know. It just got legal in PA, guys.
I
I
was
know
just
you
about
guys
to
are in
say, it just
PA.
got legal
Yeah.
in PA, right?
So,
That's big news.
Yeah, real big news. Coming to Canada. I think it's everywhere in Canada, but maybe Ontario. I'd have to double check with that, but it's probably in the works. But yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. Listen, you can check me out on the Power Hour. A lot of times it's solo stuff. I'd love to have you guys on my show sometime. I know I've talked to
No
a
doubt.
couple different guys. Got to have them on. So yeah, that's
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to jumping on your podcast. It is something we've talked about previously, so I would really like to do that as soon as possible.
it's so tough with everybody's schedule. Like usually I'm sleeping
Mhm.
like a baby right now, but I had to do the show. I had to talk with you guys.
I apologize for keeping you up past your bedtime.
You are fine, dude. You are definitely fine. I'm wired now. We can do another show if you guys want.
I would love to do that. Trust me. I drank enough caffeine. I drank this whole fucking, by the way, Dr. Pepper sponsor me.
Oh, okay.
Greatest soda. Top 8 Dynasty soda, Dr. Pepper. Again, Andy, thank you for joining us. Something Rich and I do at the end of every single podcast. Actually, I did the last one, Rich. You want to do this one?
Yeah, so us over at the Dynasty Dogs care tremendously about mental health, particularly men's mental health. If you're having issues, if you're having doubts, you have any thoughts in your mind, just dark days, we all go through them. It's better to be here and talk about it, and then rather than you not be here and talk about you. So if you have issues, reach out to a friend. If you don't have any friends, my Twitter is right there. My messages are always open. Reach out. And you can always bend my ear.
Yeah, absolutely. Just remember, you are loved. That will be it for this episode of the Dynasty Dogs, brought to you by the Fantasy Football Universe. We will see you guys next time. Have a good night.
Peace.
See ya.